He is 14 years old, barefoot on a dirt floor slick with spilled porridge and blood, coughing so hard his ribs feel like they might crack open. The air stinks of rot and sickness. Outside the bars, a British officer steps closer and orders the boy to clean his boots. The boy looks up, hollow-eyed, starving, already carrying the weight of 2 dead parents, and he says no. The sword comes down fast. Steel kisses flesh. The slash opens his face and leaves a mark that will never fade. His brother dies nearby. Fever follows. Smallpox chews at his skin. He survives by accident, not mercy. Years later, this same scarred orphan will command armies, break treaties, crush rivals, and sit in the highest office of a new nation. His enemies will fear his temper more than his laws. His will move borders and bodies alike. How does a discarded prisoner become a president who rules as if the world still owes him blood? The boy grows up in a place where childhood is a rumor and mercy is a mistake. The Carolina backcountry is not a frontier of opportunity. It is a spill zone for the unwanted. Scots-Irish immigrants scraping at red clay, cabins stitched together with mud, men who settle arguments with fists because courts are too far away, and justice arrives armed or not at all. Hunger is normal. Violence is grammar. Death is casual. Andrew Jackson is born into this world already behind. His father dies before he takes his first breath, crushed under a fallen tree while clearing land that will never truly be his. His mother spends her days nursing soldiers and burying sons that aren't hers. By the time Andrew is a teenager, both brothers are gone. One is beaten to death by British captivity and disease. The other collapses after the prison camp, his body unable to hold together long enough to become a man. His mother follows them into the ground not long after, sick from tending prisoners on disease ships. No inheritance, no protection, no adult hand left to pull him upright. Orphan is too gentle a word. He is unclaimed. The war does not make heroes here, it makes debris. Andrew is captured young, thrown into a makeshift prison where lice crawl freely and sickness moves faster than food. The slash across his face is not just an injury, it is instruction. Obedience keeps you alive. Refusal earns scars. Power is arbitrary, and humiliation is policy. The British officer does not see a future president. He sees refuse that talks back. When Andrew stumbles out of captivity, he is barely alive. Smallpox scars his body. Fever has hollowed his eyes. He is angry in a way that has no direction yet, like a fire burning in an empty field. There is no ceremony marking survival, no applause. He simply keeps breathing while others do not. He tries school. He hates it. Books feel useless in a world that kills with hands and steel. He learns instead how to read faces, how to recognize insult before it lands, how to remember slights with photographic clarity. Every laugh feels like mockery. Every disagreement feels like a test. He carries himself like a coiled spring, already daring the world to push. Poverty does not teach humility. It teaches vigilance. Jackson learns to sleep light, to trust no one fully, to measure men by how quickly they might turn. He wears the same clothes until they are threadbare. He eats when he can. He gambles, drinks, drifts. The frontier offers freedom the way a storm offers rain, indiscriminately and often destructively. Society does not lift him. It reminds him constantly of his place. He has no pedigree, no money, no respected surname. He is loud, thin-skinned, easily provoked. Polite society labels him dangerous, uncouth, unstable. The word unfit follows him like a shadow, so he leans into it. If the world insists he is an animal, he decides to become the kind that bites first. He apprentices under lawyers not because he loves law, but because law is a sanctioned weapon. Words that can take land, procedures that can humiliate enemies legally. He memorizes statutes with the same intensity other men reserve for prayer. But even as he studies order, chaos never leaves him. His temper detonates over perceived disrespect. He challenges men to fights that could end his life. He stores grudges the way other men store savings. Honor becomes his religion. In this world, honor is not about virtue. It is about dominance. About never allowing another man to believe he can hurt you without consequence. Jackson absorbs this code until it replaces whatever moral framework he might have had. An insult unanswered is an invitation. An enemy unpunished is a future threat. The scar on his face hardens into identity. It is proof. Proof that the world drew first blood. Proof that survival requires retaliation. Every time someone looks at it, he is reminded, and so are they, that he has already been tested and lived. But beneath the bravado is something quieter and more dangerous. Fear. The fear of being small again, powerless, trapped in a cell, waiting for someone else's mood to decide whether you eat or bleed. That fear does not fade with age. It metastasizes. As Jackson grows into adulthood, he never truly leaves the prison camp. It travels with him, informing every choice. Trust is rationed. Compassion is conditional. Forgiveness is weakness disguised as virtue. He watches the world closely, cataloging who holds power and how they use it. He notices something critical. Institutions do not protect the weak. They serve whoever controls them. So he resolves to control them. The boy who once had nothing begins constructing himself like a fortress. Every slight becomes a brick. Every hardship, mortar. He is building something rigid and unforgiving because flexibility, he has learned, snaps under pressure. This is the abyss that shapes him. Not just poverty or violence, but the lesson that suffering unanswered demands repayment. The idea that history is not something you endure. It is something you avenge yourself upon. By the time Andrew Jackson steps fully into public life, the damage is already done. The wound is no longer bleeding, but it has never healed, and it is hungry. There is no single lightning bolt moment where Andrew Jackson decides to harden. It is slower than that, meaner. A series of confirmations that the world only respects force, and that hesitation invites erasure. The spark comes disguised as opportunity. He moves west to Tennessee, a raw place still deciding whether it will become civilization or simply remain a more organized violence. Here, titles are cheap, law is flexible, and reputation is currency. Jackson understands this instantly. He does not arrive polished. He arrives alert, watching, measuring. As a lawyer, he learns how power actually works, not in theory, in practice. He watches men with clean hands steal land with paperwork. He watches polite smiles precede financial ruin. He realizes the court is just another battlefield, one where blood is replaced with ink, but the casualties are just as real. The lesson lands hard. Morality does not win cases. Aggression does. And then there are the insults. They come constantly. About his temper, his birth, his lack of refinement. Each one lodges inside him like shrapnel. He does not forget faces. He does not forget words. Men joke at his expense and later discover that jokes echo longer than they expect. Honor culture does the rest. In this world, reputation is survival. To be seen as weak is to invite attack. Jackson becomes obsessive about slights real or imagined. He challenges men over whispers, over sideways glances, over comments made second-hand. Duels become his language, pistols his punctuation. He does not duel because he enjoys violence. He duels because he is terrified of becoming invisible again. One bullet shatters his arm. Another lodges near his heart and stays there for the rest of his life. A permanent reminder that survival often comes at a physical cost. Pain becomes constant. He lives with it, functions through it, lets it sharpen his already volatile edge. Suffering is familiar. It feels like home. But the real spark, the one that changes scale, comes with command. War offers Jackson something law never could: authority without apology, violence with legitimacy, an enemy you are allowed to destroy. When he is placed in charge of militia forces, something inside him clicks into alignment. Discipline becomes personal. Obedience becomes non-negotiable. He starves with his men, marches them through mud and sickness, demands loyalty as if betrayal might kill him in his sleep. He sees hesitation as treason, mercy as a liability. He learns another crucial lesson: victory forgives everything. As long as you win, your methods are rewritten as necessity. Brutality becomes decisiveness. Rage becomes resolve. The public does not ask how you did it, only whether you did. This realization is intoxicating. Jackson stops seeing conflict as something to be resolved. He sees it as something to be finished, completely, permanently. Enemies are not persuaded. They are eliminated, politically or otherwise. Compromise feels like weakness dressed up as virtue. And somewhere in this transformation, revenge evolves into ideology. The boy who once refused to clean boots now demands absolute submission. The orphan who watched institutions fail him decides institutions must bend or break. He begins to believe that his suffering was not random, but preparatory. That pain has chosen him, that he has earned the right to reshape the world in his image because he survived what it did to him. He does not articulate this aloud. He doesn't need to. It radiates from him. In his posture, his eyes, the way rooms quiet when he enters. People begin to fear him. Respect follows fear like a shadow. Jackson tastes something new: control, not safety. Control is better than safety. Safety can be taken. Control must be challenged, and challengers bleed. From this point on, every decision is filtered through a single question he never consciously asks, but always answers. Who is trying to take power from me? And once that question exists, the answer is always someone. The spark has fully caught. The fire is no longer contained. And the man Andrew Jackson is becoming will not be satisfied with survival. He wants dominance. Power does not arrive cleanly. It grinds its way into you, eroding parts that once felt essential. For Andrew Jackson, the grind is not a phase. It is a lifestyle. His body is already failing him while his ambition is just beginning. Bullets remain lodged beneath his skin. Chronic pain twists his spine, steals his sleep, sharpens his temper. He coughs blood some mornings and rides anyway. He vomits from fever and still presides over court. Illness is not an excuse. It is an insult to be ignored. Every day he continues is proof that he cannot be broken. He works like a man running from something invisible. Legal cases pile up. Land deals stack higher. He speculates aggressively, often recklessly, convinced that land is destiny made solid. Ownership means control. Control means immunity. He accumulates property not for comfort but for leverage. Relationships become transactional. Loyalty is demanded, not earned. Friends are useful until they aren't. Enemies are permanent. Jackson's memory for betrayal is flawless. He can recall the tone of a man's voice from years earlier, the exact phrasing of an insult. Time does not soften grudges, it preserves them. His marriage becomes another battlefield. Rachel is his refuge, but also his vulnerability. When rivals attack her honor, they are not merely insulting a wife, they are threatening his last emotional anchor. Jackson responds the only way he knows how. With fury that borders on annihilation. He does not separate personal from political. Everything is personal. The military molds him completely. Command offers structure to his chaos. Orders are clear. Obedience is binary. He pushes men past exhaustion, past hunger, past reason. Desertion is punished brutally. Disobedience is treason. He believes discipline saves lives, even if enforcing it costs some. His men suffer, but they follow. They follow because he suffers too. Because he shares their hunger and marches beside them. Because his will feels unbreakable. Victory cements his legend. Each success reinforces the same lesson. Relentlessness works. Hesitation kills. Mercy complicates. Jackson's reputation grows into myth. He is no longer just a man. He is a force, a warning. To cross him is to invite ruin. But there is a price being paid quietly. He loses the ability to doubt himself. Reflection feels dangerous. If he pauses too long, the old fear creeps back in. The boy in the prison camp. The orphan with nothing. So he keeps moving, keeps fighting, keeps expanding his authority. The grind strips away nuance. People become categories, loyal or disloyal, useful or obstructive, with him or against him. There is no room for ambiguity in a mind forged by survival trauma. Complexity feels like threat. He begins to believe deeply in his own instincts, not because they are always right, but because trusting anything else feels like surrender. Advisors are tolerated, not trusted. Institutions exist to be used. Laws exist to be bent. If they resist, they reveal themselves as enemies of the people, his people. Physical pain becomes constant background noise. Emotional pain is locked away and guarded fiercely. When Rachel dies, the grief nearly unravels him. He channels it into rage, into purpose, into the belief that the world took yet another thing from him that must be answered for. By now, the trade is complete. He has traded empathy for endurance, doubt for certainty, mercy for momentum. What emerges from the grind is not just a leader, but a doctrine. Strength is moral. Weakness is dangerous. Opposition is hostility. And the man strong enough to impose his will is justified by the very act of imposing it. Andrew Jackson is no longer climbing. He is advancing. And the higher he rises, the fewer people remain who can tell him no. The victory arrives the way it always does for Andrew Jackson. Loud, absolute, and drenched in consequence. By the time he reaches the presidency, he is no longer chasing power. Power has learned his name. Crowds roar for him, not because he is gentle, but because he is defiant. He presents himself as proof that the world can be bent by force of will alone. An orphan who clawed his way upward. A man who speaks plainly, hates elites, and promises to smash anything that stands between the people and their destiny. But the truth is more complicated. The people he trusts most are the ones who mirror his anger. Once in office, Jackson governs like a commander in occupied territory. He does not negotiate with opposition. He confronts it. He does not ask institutions for permission. He dares them to stop him. Courts issue rulings he dislikes, and he ignores them. Congress hesitates, and he pressures it until it folds. The presidency is no longer a referee. It is a weapon. The old fear, the one born in captivity, never leaves him. Every challenge feels existential. Every rival feels like a threat that must be neutralized completely. Compromise feels like a trap. Restraint feels like surrender. So he chooses decisiveness, always. His enemies learn quickly that Jackson does not seek coexistence. He seeks resolution. Careers are destroyed. Alliances are broken. Political norms are bent until they creak. Those who resist are labeled corrupt, aristocratic, enemies of the common man. The language is simple. The effect is devastating. And then there is the suffering carried out in his name. Entire nations of people are told they must move. Treaties are signed under pressure, ignored when inconvenient, enforced at gunpoint when necessary. Families are driven from land they have lived on for generations. Old people collapse on roads they never chose to walk. Children die far from home. The machinery of government hums steadily, while human lives are reduced to obstacles. Jackson does not see himself as cruel. He sees himself as realistic. In his mind, this is how history works. Strong nations expand. Weak ones are consumed. He believes he is securing the future for his people, just as he once tried to secure survival for himself. The irony is suffocating. The boy who once suffered under empire now wields empire with certainty. The orphan who learned that institutions cannot be trusted becomes the man who reshapes institutions to serve his will. The scarred prisoner who refused to bow now demands obedience from entire populations. He wins, over and over again. And winning justifies everything. Yet the cost is undeniable. The presidency hardens him further. Isolation deepens, paranoia sharpens. He trusts fewer people, he sleeps poorly. His health deteriorates. The pain never stops. It only fades into the background of power. When Rachel dies, the loss tears through him like an exposed nerve. He blames his enemies. He blames the world. He carries the grief into office, wearing it like armor. The nation sees strength. Few see the rage holding it together. By the end of his reign, Andrew Jackson has reshaped the presidency into something far more aggressive than it was meant to be. He has expanded democracy for some while, annihilating it for others. He has proven that one man's trauma, given enough authority, can redraw maps. The empire is complete, and it tastes like ash. History never agrees on Andrew Jackson because Andrew Jackson never agreed with himself. To some, he is carved in stone as a champion of the common man, a figure who ripped power away from aristocrats and handed it to voters who had never mattered before, a president who proved that birthright could be beaten by will, that a poor, scarred orphan could seize the machinery of government and make it answer to him. To others, he is remembered in footprints and graves, in forced marches and broken treaties, in the quiet truth that democracy, when fueled by rage, can still destroy. That expanding power for one group can mean erasing another entirely. Both memories are true. Jackson lives at the intersection of empowerment and cruelty, where pain becomes policy and trauma wears the mask of destiny. He never healed from his childhood. He weaponized it. Every humiliation became justification. Every loss became license. He taught the nation that strength could be personal, visceral, unforgiving. And that lesson never left. Modern politics still echoes his instincts. The idea that compromise is weakness, that enemies must be crushed, not understood, that suffering, once endured, grants moral authority to impose suffering in return. Jackson did not invent these impulses, but he proved how far they could go when crowned with legitimacy. In his final years, the fire dims but never dies. His body fails. His temper does not. He remains convinced he was right. That history would thank him. that survival demanded hardness. Perhaps the most unsettling truth is this: Jackson did survive, and he did win. By every metric his world valued, his life is a triumph. But history is not only written by winners, it is felt by those who pay the price. The scarred orphan became a president. The prisoner became a ruler. The boy who learned that mercy does not exist built a nation that still struggles to decide whether mercy is weakness or wisdom. That is his legacy. Not a verdict, a warning